for a higher paying job, and then I started getting paid more than my peers at the last one. So
Okay,
you have to
that's what I
like
was gonna say.
know.
We got to pause right there. That's this. I You brought this up. Okay, you bringing this up. This might be a whole nother topic, but I think it
Oh,
kind of correlate and connect together. The structure of the resume, like you made a point, most people not don't even know about. How can you structure your resume? This kind of going back to kind of ties into the LinkedIn part to
yeah.
before you even talk about salary, but it puts you in a range where you better look in. How can you frame that resume? We don't have to get too deep into it, but I think you made an interesting point.
With in regards to what framing the resume, like what part?
Like you just said, like, well, they don't know how long I've been this AVP, or it's all about framing. Like you framed it very well. Do you
Yeah.
have any tips on framing a resume?
I mean, I think like when it comes to resume writing, again, I mean, I don't know if it's just because of how much my role in having to look at resumes so much, but your resume one should not necessarily be a lie, but it can be embellished. Okay. So meaning you can get a little like dramatic with some stuff. There's certain words you can use that might just really make it sound better. For
Yeah, make
example,
it.
when I was 18, I was a lead teller. To me, teller lead didn't sound like nothing exciting. So I put lead supervising teller or teller supervisor. It's the same thing, but
Just sounds better.
it sounds better, right? And as an AVP, there's another like term for it, which is like just manager. There are people out there that just put manager on their resume.
Ugh.
Uh,
Yeah,
sir, I'm an assistant vice president. That
that
sounds
sounds so
great.
much better.
It's my and it's mine. I get to say that. But you could also just say manager. Like why? I would rather say assistant vice president. That sounds good.
Okay.
It's my
Yeah, that
officer title.
sounds good.
Um, and then the other thing is this, kind of like what we talked about, what you just said. You really want to be careful about accidentally putting too many roles within a role, right? Unless there's a specific reason why. Meaning, did you want to put I don't know, did you want to show the progression of your promotions to show that you've been having success and you've done all different types of things? Do you want to put in specific roles you've done if they're in different departments to prove that, hey, although when I left I was the operations manager, I spent 4 years as the treasury manager as well. I'm interviewing for a treasury role now. So you want to just like honestly, your resume should be ever fluid and constantly changing depending on who you apply for. You certainly should not use the same resume for every application and what you do. For example, I worked in higher education for some time in between banking. And when I worked in higher education, I worked in the call center side. I don't have that on my resume because it's just not important to me. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
whatever. I worked in the call center side, whatever. But if I were to interview for anything that has call center, my current resume would not look like I have 6 years experience as a high level manager in higher education in a call center. So I would go back and put in call center director, and that way it makes it more clear. So you have to just kind of be more comfortable with like maneuvering it to fit whatever you're applying for. So I don't know if that
Wow.
hopefully that answers.
No, it did. No, it makes sense. A lot of people, that it seems so simple and it may seem like it's common sense, but a lot of people may not know to do that. Just those little details. It can be the difference in getting more money. It may be the difference of getting a job, or somebody taking an extra look, like taking time looking at your resume and not putting in that bullshit stack. Um, so those are good tips, man. And
Actually, I want to give one more tip. I'm so sorry because there's so many
no, go
entrepreneurs
ahead.
and about that. It's relevant because I just helped a young lady with this. She owns a trucking business and she's been doing the trucking business for the last 5 years solely.
Mm-hmm.
Her own. and she's ready to get back into the workforce. She needs a little bit more consistency. And she's like, Reina, I used to be in banking. I was a relationship banker back in the day. I know you do banking. She's like, and I just can't go back to being, just a regular banker. I want to be a manager. And I think that with my 5 years experience as an entrepreneur and running an entire trucking business, I have the skill set to do this, but I have been sending out resumes. I've been doing applications and no one is calling me back. I didn't even have to look at her resume. I said, and what is the title you have for your position with your trucking company? CEO, co-founder, whatever, like owner. I was like, okay, that's why no one's calling you. What do you mean? I was like, you have to understand the difference between there's a level of respect that most people have for entrepreneurs when they've gotten to the point that they never need to work for someone else again. But you are going to express to somebody how you were so great at your role owning a company
that you're coming back.
And you're coming back to the workforce somehow. Like, it doesn't sound like it, and even it doesn't mean it didn't go well, but you have to understand corporate America and people that do not do their own businesses, they have no clue the amount of work you've done. They have no understanding of the amount of sacrifice and risk that you've assumed. They have no idea what you've done. It just looks like you probably stayed at home with your kids and did a little something, and now you're putting on your resume. They do not respect it. And
at all.
Right. And when you are an entrepreneur, you're in a world where you get a lot of accolades, you got a lot of hand claps. People are pumping your head up because they're so proud of you. Like, wow, you did that? That's amazing. And you forget that in the other world, corporate America, they don't really think that great of people coming back into the workforce from working their own businesses. So I had her change her role from co-owner, CEO, president, whatever she had in there. And I said, you're looking to become a branch manager. You need to put sales and operations senior manager. She was like, but that's not, I'm like, put sales and senior operation manager of that.
It's that pride, that ego.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go. And change the description of what you did to specifically things that were centered around sales and operations management. And then when they say we want to do a background check and verify this role, your husband will verify your role. Y'all got the same last name anyway. Have him verify. Man, Jessica was an excellent sales and operations manager, or whatever you want to say. The other thing is, a lot of businesses only need to verify that you actually did the job. So they might not even have to talk. You could just send a letter stating this person had this role and worked this job from this time to this time. Because it's a legitimate business. You have an EIN, you're registered, you're a legitimate business, okay? She did that on a Monday, and she just had her first interview last Friday. First interview after she's been trying to get an interview for months. It couldn't even get an interview. And she finally did it. And she called me, told me, asked me to help her. I said, did you change the resume? She's like, that's the only reason why I have this interview now, because I changed my resume. So you really need to just think about how those titles work contingent upon what you're trying to apply for.